our face.
All right, welcome team to our first PLC. I'm very excited for us to come together for the benefit of our students' learning and how we can better our instruction. So you all have an agenda here, and I just really want to quickly go over kind of what our overall goal is for today's meeting. So since it's our first PLC, we're going to just take a few minutes to introduce ourselves. I'm going to give a short presentation on what a PLC is, so an overview, and some guiding questions that are going to drive our future meetings later on. We're going to, as a team, come up with a purpose statement so that we can ensure we all know why we're coming together each time we have a PLC meeting. We're going to go over some PLC roles so that you can be an active participant during our PLC meetings in the future. We are going to really reflect on how we can develop meaningful PLC meetings, and so we will structure and kind of reflect on how we can have PLC norms to ensure our meetings are productive, meaningful, and again for the benefit of our students. And if we have time today, which we probably won't, we're going to develop a SMART goal where we're going to look at our school's strategic plan and our SIPSA, which is our kind of overall goal specific to our campus. What is it that we're working towards with our students? So that's our agenda. Really quickly, to introduce ourselves, I'm just going to ask that you say your name, your first name only, no last name, your role here at our school, and then it says years of teaching, but I'm going to ask you to change how many years in education. So working with children or with students, not specific in the classroom. So for example, my name is Judith. I've been teaching for 11 years, but overall my part in education has been 11 plus 3 extra years because I was actually a Montessori TA while I was doing my undergraduate studies. So altogether 14 years in education. Does anyone want to go next? Or in order?
I'm Maria. I'm an administrator here, and I've been working in education for 20 plus years.
Wonderful. And what roles have you done in those 20 years?
I have been a kindergarten teacher, a TA in a first, second, third grade classroom. I've also worked in the preschool environment and have been a school administrator now for 16 years.
Wonderful.
My name is Parisa. This is my first year teaching, but I've been in education for 6 years, and previous to this year, I was in the after school program and then a teaching assistant as well.
Thank you.
My name is Rachel, and I've been working with children for 13 years, 9 here, and then 2 as an in-home behaviorist, behavior tutor, and then the rest, 1 or 2 years in high school. I had a class where I was at the elementary school. TA? Is it TA?
Cool.
I'm Aaron, and I've been teaching for around 20 years. Yeah, and then let's see. Started at a parochial school and taught 2nd and 3rd and 4th grade, and on and off I did a little bit of sub work where I did anything from kindergarten all the way to 4th grade, and yeah, and then got married, and then we moved to Elk Grove and started Montessori training and teaching, and so yeah.
Wonderful. So the reason I asked to think about the years of education that we participated in is because if you think overall just the diverse range of years that we've been in education, and to put a value on our experiences, because when we come to our PLC meetings from our beginning year teachers, but who've also been working with students for many years, have a different perspective than an administrator role who's been in it for 20 years, or teachers who have been TAs or behaviorists or any kind of role in education, to just bring that value into our PLCs, because you all bring such a wide range of experience and perspective from the different areas of education that you worked in. So thank you for sharing. Our next activity is going to think of our purpose statement. So here we have drafted CMP Elk Grove Laura L's team purpose is to, and I kind of want you to think about what it is that we're trying to accomplish when we have our PLC meetings. Is it to plan? Is it to share? Is it to collaborate? Is our main focus just to come and complain? Or to just unwind and relax? Or is it mainly about students learning and student growth? So I'm just going to give you a minute to kind of think, why are we here? Why do we have PLCs? You bring up a great point.
Should we talk about it, or are we thinking independently?
You can think to yourself for a little bit, maybe process some of the actions that I had shared. If there's any additional things that we can add to our team purpose statement, then definitely we would ask you to share that. So I know we already do our grade level meetings where we come together and share and plan, build, our community here, to build friendships here. But to think about our PLCs is a little bit different than our grade level meetings, right? The goal is student learning, but the main component to our PLC is data. Like, data drives our instruction, data drives how our students are learning and how we need to get better at our teaching or reteach so that it's for the benefit of our students. So is there anything that we should add to our team purpose statement? I know we come together to plan, to share, to collaborate, bring data for the benefit of our students. So is there anything that we need to change? Students learning and overall well-being. I like to add that component of well-being because they're here in our classroom and at school a majority of the day, and so a lot of their well-being should also be an importance to us too, right? Perfect. All right, so in your packet, the next page is our PLC roles. And so there's a little description on what the responsibilities are. And so we are just going to take a few minutes. If there's something that you're really, really comfortable doing, maybe star that or make a note. But to be an active participant in our PLCs, we're going to ask that we take turns or do a rotation of a team role, just so that we're active. So I know for myself, because I'm working towards my admin credential, I would love to be the facilitator. If anyone wants to find me on that, you can speak up, but I will definitely take the role as our PLC facilitator. Yeah, I will do that for the entire school year. But there's 3 additional, and I believe everyone will be a team member. And their responsibility is to follow and model the team's purpose statement, follow and model the team's PLC norms, which we'll get to in a little bit. Yeah, data processor.
I'll be the processor.
You want it, so you would like to be like the recorder to note our minutes. Maria will be our data processor. I think that's great. All year. And then Maria is
Data processor.
data processor. And then
timekeeper.
I was gonna be the timekeeper.
How about we can switch
No!
I'll do it this trimester and you can do it next trimester.
That is very reasonable. Thank you.
timekeeper. So we have our job descriptions of what each role will be, right? And so it sounds like I will be the facilitator for all of our meetings. Rachel, you don't mind being the recorder for all meetings? And then Maria, the data processor? And then do you two want to switch off to do the timekeeper?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Are there any questions on these specific team roles and kind of the commitment you're promising? Promising.
For recording the minutes,
I will have
do you want like the beginning part? Do you want to know like who's here, or really just what we talk about related to like the data and whatever our goals are for that meeting?
good question. In our packet, the very last page, there's like a PLC agenda / note-taking part. And for future meetings, I'm not going to use this exact copy of the form, but I will kind of merge the two like this in a way that I feel is workable for our PLC, and then I will attach it to the agenda. So
I'll take the notes on there.
we'll just use that paper. Perfect. I realized I didn't use my little PLC overview presentation. So really quickly, just some informational stuff. I pulled this quote from the book Learning by Doing, which is all about our PLC, our professional learning community. But this quote really spoke to me because it talks about what it is that our overall goal is. So it says an ongoing process in which educators work collaboratively in recurring cycles of collective inquiry and action research to achieve better results for the students they serve. PLCs operate under the assumption that the key to improved learning for students is continuous, job-embedded learning for educators. So we're not an island, right? We're really great at coming together, communicating, and collaborating. So definitely we want to uphold that quality in our PLC, but to also look at how, where it says improve learning for students, is a continuous job-embedded learning for educators. So just like we think our students and how we are constantly teaching them and they're learning, we want to uphold that standard for ourselves too. And what a great way to do that by using our community, our group of teachers, to learn from each other as well. I love this picture because it's a great depiction of a PLC group, right? You have a team rowing a boat and we're all working together simultaneously, and if one rower is not participating or contributing, the function of the rowboat is not going to work well, right? So same thing for our PLC. We come together, we are an active participant, we are working together, and we don't want to have one team member fail, but like not do their part. So as a team, we are wanting to work together. So really quickly, some three big ideas about PLCs. Obviously, we're here for students learning. We learning requires a collaborative and a collective effort, which I already know we can do. And then third, to assess our effectiveness. And I think that's the key point out of all that entire blurb, is to assess our effectiveness. Because I know we may get into that mindset of like complacent, right? Like we're just like, I'm just going to do this just to do this because I've done it for, repeated years. But how effective is that? Year to year, we know that our students are so different from the last group or the last year. And so why is it that we're wanting to keep doing the same thing when our students aren't that same form, right? So assess our effectiveness in helping all students learn. So a PLC model is a triangular form, and it's almost like a cycle where we focus on learning, we bring our data to look at results, and we come together and we collaborate to see what's working, what's not working, and how can we adjust. Moving forward, our PLC meetings are going to be guided through these essential questions. What do we expect students to learn? How will we know when they have learned it? How will we respond when they already know it? And how do we respond when they don't learn? So we'll get very familiar with these 4 essential questions. Now that we've developed our PLC roles, the big part of the rest of our meeting is going to look at our PLC norms. And so again, coming together in a PLC is a commitment, right? And so we want to make sure not only are we coming together, but we're being productive. You know, we've sat in several meetings where it's just like, I don't want to be here. There's nothing like important that we're doing. So we want to make sure our norms are here to benefit everyone, right? So I want us to work together to think about these 5 components to our PLC. We are going to talk about time. How should we set parameters to our time, right? Do we have, do we end at a specific time, or do we just table our topics and like say, okay, we'll address this later on? So time sensitivity, we'll talk about. Listening, how will we encourage active listening, and how do we discourage interrupting? So we've been in meetings where people just take the mic, right, and is just talking and talking and talking. So how do we encourage more active listening versus disrupting? Decisions, how are we going to decide on what to do next if we're not all in agreement? What is our policy on like, okay, let's think about it overnight and come back together and make a decision? Or are we just going to say, you're right, my idea is wrong, and we're gonna move on with what you said? Participation, how are we all going to actively participate in our PLC meetings? Like I said, we all bring our own expertise and our own experiences, so feel free to share those ideas when it's time to share. And then what are our expectations? Are we going to just not bring our data with us? Are we just going to not commit to our meetings, right? How are we going to ensure a productive meeting in the future, or just moving forward? What do we expect from each other, from our PLCs? So let's kind of pick a category, and what are some norms that we can develop that we can all agree that we will follow in our future PLCs? Is there something specific that kind of jumps out?
For time, like we should definitely have like a start and an end time.
Okay.
And if you can't make that time, I think that we should let our team know
Okay.
in advance as possible. That way, we can adjust our meeting if we need to, or decide if we can continue on without someone.
Okay, so communicate if you're not able to make it or having other commitments, right?
Yeah.
Communicate schedule. Perfect. Anything else for other categories?
Participation. Just making sure that
Participation, yeah.
it kind of goes with
Yeah, like showing up and bringing our data, like if our goal is to bring, have something done and bring it. So for participation, like make sure that we're here or we've communicated. But
If we have things that we're bringing to the meeting, that we are prepared and
Be present
being present, being prepared.
and prepared. I like that one. How would we decide on like those really tough decisions, like my class, I see my class going this direction and it may not be the best to go that way versus another way?
I think deciding, like one, is it okay to, you know, if the group decides that it's okay to go a different route.
Okay.
Also, I know like sometimes maybe it's hard for one of us, so like helping, supporting, so that, you know, if someone's feeling like that's like whatever.
overwhelming or they're not familiar with it.
Yeah.
I think also having a timekeeper now will be helpful because it says one of the roles is to decide when to table the subject or making a decision. So instead of continuing to just discuss, setting kind of a time limit to let's decide now.
So let the timekeeper do their role.
Right.
I put agree to decide on what's best for our students, so pertaining to your own classroom, right? Because you know your students best, and you know if one thing works for my classroom doesn't work for yours, then you know definitely let's speak up and say that, and we can come together and be like, okay, let's share our ideas of how that went for your classroom versus our classroom in the next meeting. What about listening?
Being an active listener,
Okay.
we tell our students.
Present, right? Like, so they're not, checking their phones or
I
just,
wasn't checking them.
no, I'm not saying you were, I did, I checked
No.
mine, but I mean, yeah, but,
Yeah.
I mean, that can be distracting.
Right. Yeah, I was just,
I'm guilty of it too.
well, no, I just have to be out of here by 4, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We're almost done.
Yeah.
Be an active listener.
Yeah.
What about in the sense of like you not not agreeing, but like when you have different perspectives or different opinions than another person, like be open to new ideas, right?
Yeah.
Like we want to make sure.
Being respectful of other
Yeah.
people's opinions.
And I think you touched base on that as well as, people not just taking over and talking the entire time.
Of other people's.
Like being
opinions
respectful of,
and time.
yeah,
Maybe that's like an overall expectation. Like share
sorry, yeah, you're right.
share the floor.
Yeah.
Not talk over others.
You know, this more speaks to like how we conduct ourselves, right? During our PLCs, you know, be respectful towards like your facial expressions, your grunts or your moans, or just your reactions, right? Anything else? And this can definitely, we can revamp it. It's a working document, so we don't necessarily need to just say this is the end all, but we'll grow from here as our PLC meetings go on. Yeah. And that's our PLC meeting for today. We will do the SMART goal for our next meeting. The next steps for us is to continue what we're doing. We'll have our grade level meetings, but then January 4th will be our next PLC meeting. Any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to keep these packets or do you